April 20th, or excuse me, 12th through Sunday, April 6th. So that would be missing 3 days of school. I have communicated that with our administration. They know about that. So students, you have a year's advance to start figuring out your assignments and not using this trip as an excuse for getting something done. Okay? Our performance will be at the National Cherry Blossom Festival Parade on Saturday, April 5th. I don't know the time or anything like that. Those details will be coming later. Right now, price per student, approximately $800. We'll be talking about that in a little bit more detail later on. All band students next year are eligible to go. So this is including current 8th graders. You see a lot of current 8th graders in the room right now. So make sure you are telling your friends, yes, if you're currently in the 8th grade, you're planning to do band next year, you are eligible to go on the trip. And we really hope all of our students go. 3 years ago, about this time, we went to New York City and marched in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I think total we took about 225 people, about 190 of that being students, and it was a great trip. It was a fantastic trip. And usually the current 8th graders are going to be the one that may be a little hesitant to go. We try to take a band trip every 4 years. So if you're going to be a 9th grader next year is your one shot at a big trip like this. So encourage your friends, encourage the parents of those students to let them go on that trip next year, because it's going to be an experience that they're greatly going to enjoy. So trip itinerary and highlights. Again, it's very tentative. There's lots of things on our itinerary that we're applying to do that we don't have been selected for some things yet. So again, it's flexible until for the next few months, most likely. But the following daily schedule is an example of what we could do. Many of these activities we're pretty confident we will be able to do, but again, it's going to be determined on availability, so the dates, the times could change slightly. So let's start talking about what a nice looking itinerary, if we can make it work out, will look like for us. We'll leave Wednesday, April 12th, early in the morning, very early in the morning. From here on charter buses. We would stop on the way up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then we would get to Washington, D.C. late that evening at our hotel. On the trip up and the trip back, those would be moments where students would need to bring money for meals on their own that would not be included in the cost of the trip. Okay. We'd unload that evening, get settled in rooms, and get some sleep for 3 long days ahead. On Thursday, that morning, we'd start off with a tour of the Arlington National Cemetery. I know that's kind of weird. You think like we're going to a cemetery, but if you've ever been to Arlington, it's beautiful. It's completely awesome experience to go there and see all of the different memorials and very interesting and historical sites. And it's just, the grounds are beautiful, as you can see there on the left. Some of the trees and things. It's a really, really powerful experience. We would be able to witness the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and most likely be able to, this is one of those things we're applying to be able to participate in like a wreath-laying ceremony there at the changing of the guard. Some highlights of visiting Arlington: the grave sites of President John F. Kennedy and President Taft are there. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is buried there. There's memorials for the Space Shuttle Discovery and Columbia, and there's some really beautiful views of over across the Potomac into Washington, D.C. from some of the higher hills in Arlington. So really, really cool experience. We have guided tours, breaking down into smaller groups, and have guided tours of that morning. After that, we would head over to the National Mall area. So most of the famous sites, if you've never been to Washington, D.C. before, most of the famous sites are right along what's called the National Mall. If you've ever watched a presidential inauguration, that happens up here at the Capitol building, and then all the people lined up behind that are usually in this area here on the National Mall. So you can see the Capitol building here, the Washington Monument. Over this way is the White House. The Jefferson Memorial is over here, the Lincoln Memorial and Reflecting Pool are this way. So it kind of forms this large cross with really lots of interesting Smithsonian museums lining this area here in the National Mall. So there's tons to do in the National Mall area. So that afternoon, we'd have lunch somewhere in the mall area, and then we would kind of break up into groups for students to select a museum or some monuments they would like to visit. So just some highlights and things in this area: the American History Museum, Natural History Museum, Air and Space, National Art Gallery, Washington Monument, World War II, Martin Luther King Memorial, Lincoln Memorial. There's tons to see, tons to do in this area, and I believe most of the Smithsonian things are free. So again, those are things that we wouldn't have to pay for as part of our package, but anything that we wanted to do that would be paid for would be included in our package. So again, just some highlights. You can go see the skeletons of the dinosaurs there at the Natural History Museum. Air and Space is really cool. Lots of air and space historical items, planes and things. It's a really, really interesting place to go. So that would be Thursday afternoon. Again, we would have dinner provided as part of our Potomac River Spirit Cruise. So I see some parents that I know went on the New York trip with us a few years ago, and one of the highlights of that trip was the river cruise that we did on the Hudson River around New York City that night. It'll feature a full buffet. They'll have a dance floor with a DJ. It was a ton of fun. So I know this will be a highlight of the trip as well. So dinner would be included with this. Nighttime views of DC and the surrounding area, and just an opportunity to have a lot of fun together. So that would wrap up day one. Day two, Friday. This is where some of the flexibility comes into our schedule. So some things that we could consider doing: going to Mount Vernon, which is the home of George Washington. That's pretty much a full morning experience from what I hear. It's about 40 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. But that's one thing we're looking at doing. There's also the Uvar Hazy Air and Space Museum, which is different from the Air and Space Museum that's on the mall. So the space shuttle, I can't remember which space shuttle, there's a space shuttle there. This SR-71 Blackbird, one of the supersonic surveillance jets from the Cold War era is there. A lot of bigger airplanes compared to what they have in like the National Mall Air and Space Museum. That's an option. We're also looking into some musical experiences. We have some contacts with some of the military bands in the DC area to see if it's possible that we could set up some kind of experience to take our students to go observe an Air Force band rehearsal, or maybe get some sectionals with some of those musicians. But a year out for those groups is quite a ways, so we're not going to be able to necessarily confirm those things until we get closer to the time. But that's definitely something that we would like to do, is to provide some kind of musical experience for the students as well. So that morning is kind of a lot of options that we could potentially have on that morning. We would find lunch along the way somewhere, and then we would plan to try to tour the U.S. Capitol building on that afternoon. We have applied for that. We've reached out to our state representatives and senators. My understanding of that is that those offices have to provide the tour guides now. That's, I think, maybe a different policy than what has been in place before. So for a group of our size, that would be quite a few tour guides that those offices would have to come up with. But our travel agent has reached out to those individuals to try to secure some tours of the Capitol building. That's a really cool experience if you've never done it before, so we really hope we're able to do that. We would also try to take a picture somewhere, like a group photo on the steps of the Capitol, which would be really cool. So hopefully we're able to make that happen. And then in the evening, a tour of a lot of the monuments there on the mall. If you've never done a nighttime tour of some of these monuments, the Lincoln Memorial, the World War II Memorial close to the Washington Monument, they're incredibly beautiful at night. Seeing them in the day is cool, but seeing them at night is almost like a completely different experience. So some guided tours of those monuments and memorials there in the National Mall area is something that we're planning to do. And then Saturday is parade day. Very little information about this day because it's completely dependent on what time the parade starts, where we are in the parade order, all of those things. They do have grandstand seating, so if you're a parent that thinks you're going to go to DC but maybe not with us, and you want to just go and watch and hang out and do other things, which is totally fine. There's some seating areas that you can pay to get into. But it looks like from the videos that I've seen online, it looks like a really fun parade experience. Looks like a lot of people come out. There's some groups that I've seen that do like a Macy's style performance right here in front of this building, which I believe is the National Archives. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's the National Archives, right there along Constitution Avenue. But like a Macy's style performance where you kind of do in and come in and do like a little routine and then march on out if you're familiar with the Macy's parade. So it looks like a really fun parade opportunity, lots of people to perform for along the way. And that will kind of take up most of our Saturday. If we find out that the parade is later in the evening or earlier in the morning and we can squeeze something else in, that's something we'll consider. But until we know the details of that day, it's kind of just blocked off for the parade at this point. So we finish with the parade, and then at some point that Saturday, get on the bus and head back. So we would drive through the evening, wouldn't be stopping overnight. So we're back at a decent hour on Sunday. We'd have food stops built in, and then arrive back in Sebastian at some point on Sunday to hopefully have some time to prepare to go back to school on Monday, because we can't miss 4 days. 3 days is about the max. So a few hours to recover, get some clothes cleaned up, and be back at school on Monday for the final push. So that is a rough outline of the trip and what it looks like. Okay, again, the various days, the events that we could do could change, but those are kind of the things that we want to try to see. And I'm also going to be kind of checking with some of our students, like, hey, what are you most interested in? Like, would you rather try to spend some more time here or here? Because ultimately, I want this trip to be a great experience for the students. And so we're going to try to select those things where we have some flexibility to make sure we're doing things that they're really excited about. So, costs. Let me explain how our travel agent comes up with the total cost. So there's basically two different categories that they are figuring when it comes to cost. So they figure all of the costs of everything minus transportation. So that's hotels, that's meals while we're in DC, it's admissions to anything, it's tips for the bus drivers, anything that is not, well, actually the tips probably would figure into the transportation costs, but anything that's not related to the transportation costs would fall under this first category. This is pretty set here. We feel very confident that number is going to be around $600. We don't expect the hotel quotes that we've already received to change greatly. We pretty much have a good idea of the activities we're going to try to do, so we're pretty confident in that number being about $600. The charter bus cost is figured on the quotes that we've been given so far for about 225 people traveling, which is 5 buses. I think we're going to be closer to the 190 or 200 range, but the charter bus cost is based on 45 people paying per bus. So it's like a per seat cost. Now, if we say we've got this number going, the commit to go, but then some people drop out later, potentially that could change the cost, but we're going to try to work to avoid that. The charter buses, all the charter bus companies basically right now, because of the fluctuation in fuel prices, their quotes that they're giving our travel agent are only good for 10 days. So we got quotes 2 weeks ago to kind of set our initial number. Those quotes have already expired. I don't expect drastic changes to those quotes before we put our deposits down, which we'll talk about soon. But this is where some of our tentativeness in terms of the costs come in, just in terms of how they determine those costs. So the final transportation cost will be determined when we have a confirmed number of people, and the band boosters are already planning to make sure there's some funds available so that we don't have to change price points late in the process. Okay? So what's included? Right now we're setting the price at $800. The actual cost for the trip is $950, but the band boosters have committed $150 towards each student that wants to go to reduce the cost to $800. But again, the final cost will be determined when we have a total number and deposits in. Okay, so that will happen at the end of May. I'm really not expecting it to change very much. And our travel agent has said the same thing. If we're in that 180 to 200 ballpark, we will probably still be in that $800 range. The $800 includes everything except for money for meals on the way up and the way back. and any souvenirs that students might want to purchase while we're in DC. So our trip payments, what we are laying out. We're going to leave that because we do have some specific dates here. The initial trip deposit, Friday, May 24th, and that is non-refundable. Okay, the 150 deposit is going to allow us to secure the hotel rooms and the buses. Okay, until we put down those deposits, we have not actually secured those rooms or coaches yet. I wanted to give people plenty enough time to try to come up with that amount. So I pushed it back about as far as I think I can to feel comfortable with moving forward on the trip. So that's a little over about 6 weeks from now, roughly, to come up with that $150. And then you'll see there's a break. Next trip payment is not until September 23rd. That's to allow the payments for our band fees to happen over the summer. So students should have received their paperwork for next year. Hopefully you've seen that the band fee payments are June, July, and August. Get that taken care of, and then we get back to the trip payments of $130 September, October. Take December off for Christmas time reasons, and then finish up the last 2 trip payments in January and February. The trip payments will be made to the SRHS band boosters, and then we will write, one check for each one and send that on to our travel agent. Okay. If for some reason you or your student really wants to go, but there's no way you can come up with 150 here, but you'll be able to figure it out later, let me know. Okay, let me know. There's things we can do when we have some flexibility. We can work to, again, my goal is to take every kid that wants to go. So if there's extenuating circumstances, talk to us, and so we can see if we can come up with a solution. Chaperones. So chaperones will be selected based on visibility and participation in the band program. In order to be an effective chaperone, students must know who you are. Okay. If you've never done anything with us and then we go on a trip and you're assigned a group of 10 kids, that's not going to really work very well. Okay, you have to know the students, they have to know you to be an effective chaperone, to actually look out for those students and make sure they're having a good time, but they're staying safe. Ultimately, that's our number one priority as a trip, is that our students are staying safe, and everybody we leave here with, we come back with. Okay, chaperone costs will be slightly higher due to the different room occupancy. So we're figuring about $1,150 for double. Although, if you are selected as a chaperone and you want to get together with a room of 4 other chaperones to reduce the cost, then it would be more in line with like the $900 range. So that would be a decision that you and some other chaperones could come to if you would like to do that. So chaperones will be selected for in the fall 2022 semester. So October, November-ish, we're going to kind of start to determine who our chaperones are going to be, to make sure we're selecting the people who have been around and who can actually serve in those roles. Student fundraisers. So we've got some fundraisers going on to help students offset the costs. The onion fundraiser is wrapping up, but if you still know some people that need some onions, I think Ms. Page said she needs those Wednesday morning. So you got a little over a day to get that done. The honey fundraiser that we do through the Indian River Bee Company, and Ms. Page helps out a lot with that. That goes on year round. You can sell honey as a fundraiser anytime. It's a $10 bottle for, I believe, 1 pound, and students make $5 a bottle. So anytime you want to sell honey throughout the year, you can do that to help raise money for the trip. And then we've also started our program ads and our sponsorships. So the ads for football and PRISM programs are a 75-25 split. Students get 25% of anything that they sell related to a football or a PRISM program ad. The football deadline, I believe, is at the beginning of August, middle of August, and the PRISM deadline for ads is the middle of November. It's on the information that was sent home with students. And then sponsorships, 50-50 split between the student and the band. If you're going to go out trying to raise money, start with the sponsorships, because you get a bigger cut of that. Okay, ask a business, would you like to donate to me and the band? We're going to New York and this would help. If they say no, okay, would you like to buy an ad? to advertise your business. Okay, so start with that one if you can. We're planning at least 3 to 4 other fundraisers, especially throughout the fall, for students to participate. Again, just for them to raise money for their trip. And when you're going out and participating in these fundraisers, make sure you tell people that this is that you're raising money for a trip. Okay? If you put that out there, they're much more likely to be receptive to that, and they're going to, be more likely to help you. Okay? Insurance. Okay, trip insurance. There is first of all, trip insurance is strongly suggested, very strongly suggested, but it's not required. We can't require you to get the insurance. Our travel agency can't require you to get the insurance, but we highly encourage you to get it. There is a company that our travel agency works with, and I've got information for that company up here. Their rates are very reasonable. For the $800 cost of our trip, the basic level of insurance coverage is only $25. And the cancel for any reason is what they call it, which I think covers up to 75%, is only $38. So it's not a bad investment, but you can also shop around. Okay, you can get travel insurance through any insurance company. It's possible your homeowner's insurance, whatever you go through, might have a policy for travel insurance that you can get in touch with. So you can shop around for travel insurance. This will definitely be a separate payment that you'll have to make to whatever company that is. So our travel agency has nothing to do with the insurance. We have nothing to do with the insurance. The policy that you get is completely up to you, and then you communicate with that company that you go with if you need to make a claim. Okay? And again, you can feel free to shop around if you'd like to do that, but we do encourage you to take care of and get that travel insurance. All right, so that's basically the information for tonight. I am going to, if we can get him on, our travel agent, the gentleman that owns the travel agent that we're going to use is going to zoom in just to kind of say hello and answer any questions that you have specifically for him. We don't have a camera that works up there, but I'll be able to communicate our questions to him. Mr. Champion will type them in the chat for us, and he'll be able to say hello. Did you get that pulled up, Mr. Champion? Yeah. Okay. And then if you've got any questions for me after he speaks with us, I'll be happy to answer that and pass out the travel information, the travel insurance information if you're interested in that. Receptive, that's the word I was looking for. Receptive. Right, yeah, so the question was if you send them with money for food, should you send cash or like a credit or debit card? Yeah, I would say that's whatever you're most comfortable with. We'll be stopping at malls with food courts. I would think $50 would be plenty for potentially, maybe $60 for 5 meals on the way up and the way back. So really whatever you're going to feel most comfortable with. we have a big process for picking rooms. Basically what we will do is we'll send out a survey to students, and we will allow them to select to list 3 names, like their top 3 choices of students that they want to room with. And we tell them, like, you get together with a group of 4, and everybody puts everybody's name, and we're good. So as long as they do that, then that's how we'll do that, and it avoids the potential awkwardness of signups, and then just kidding, I'm going to mark this out, I'm going to sign up over here. No, I changed my mind, I'm going to sign up over here. One survey, we see the information, and it goes very smoothly.
If you're not a chaperone and you choose to go, what do you get to do? What are you allowed to do?
Okay, so that's a good question. If you're not a chaperone but you want to go, that's allowed, but you're going to be basically on your own trip. Because and the reason for that is the chaperones that go are the people that are going to be approved to be around the students. And so even if you are an approved chaperone for doing other things with us, we don't want random other people tagging along with our group. And many of these things that we do, we're going to be, pre-grouped. So if we get to tour the Capitol, we're going to have groups of 15 already ready to go. So we can't have people, well, I'm going to tag along and do this part with you. So if you're going on your own, that's great, but you're going to you're going to be on your own trip and not necessarily doing things with us, if that makes sense. Yes?
She's talking about food costs up and back. You said, I think I heard you say fast food, so it'll be each, I'm just trying to make cost.
Yes. Yeah.
So not Applebee's.
No. Food courts, small food courts, areas where there's a few restaurants right in the area, fast food type places, yes. And when we went to New York 3 years ago, we had some students who are like, I'm just gonna save money, I'm gonna take snacks for the bus on the way up, and I'm not gonna, spend money on food. If you want to do that, that's completely up to you. Most high school kids are probably going to want to eat more than that on the day of, I assume, but it is an option if you're like, hey, I'm going to try to save my money and put it towards souvenirs in DC. Yes?
As far as the actual parade, we're hoping to fly up to watch that and perform in the parade. I'm assuming as it gets closer, you'll have more details on where in the parade you guys are going to be.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get information about where we are in the lineup, what time we expect to start, and if there is like this Macy's style like standstill performance, where that will be. You have to pay to get in to those seating areas, all those kind of things. And if you're really interested in that, the actual this year's Cherry Blossom Parade, I think it was this past Saturday. So you might check their website and see what they've got out for this year, because I would assume it'd be very similar for next year. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's streamed on YouTube or something somewhere, but I don't think it's on like a national network or anything like that. Sorry.
How's the rooming like
Come on, Sawyer.
Are there any times where your kids are unchaperoned?
No. So if we're ever doing anything that's not in a group, so this kind of goes back to the rooming list. Students get to select their room, and then we'll tell them, okay, you get to get together with a group of 3 to 4 more of the groups, and then those, anywhere from 10 to 15 kids will be assigned to one chaperone or potentially 2 chaperones. Based on the interest level from chaperones, we could probably be taking 30 or 40 chaperones, which means we'll probably have at least two chaperones per 10 to 12 kids. So anytime we do anything where it's like break up, you got some time on your own, that means you're going on your own with your group, with a chaperone. You've already made a decision of, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to go here. But no, never a time where students are on their own at all in the story, except for when they're taped into their room at night. That's something we'll talk about later. Generally speaking, they need to stay together with their group. And so that's why we'll talk a lot about rooms and groups and all those kind of things. You need to be smart about who you pick. You need to talk about the things, when you're going to have some choices of what to do, you need to talk to the people that are going to be interested in doing the same things that you're interested in. Now, keep in mind, the variation is not going to be very great. we're talking about, okay, I'm gonna go to the National History Museum, or I'm gonna go to the Air and Space Museum. So it's those kind of decisions, not like, I'm completely not gonna participate in this activity. So we do encourage students to make sure that they're smart in who they're selecting as their roommates or their group, and so they're communicating about those things and kind of all on the same page. Once we start splitting up groups, then okay, you're going with them today, but yesterday you were with us, but tomorrow you're going to be back with us. It just gets confusion, and that's where we potentially, have a kid that gets displaced, which we don't want to. I think we'll be able to do that. I'm pretty sure we did that when you were Ms. Preston. Did we do that? Yeah. My only uncertainty with that is like, what does it look like? Because the parade is the last thing we're doing. What does it look like at the end of the parade to pack up to get on the road? Like, where does that happen? Is that a secure area that nobody else is allowed into? Do we have to stop somewhere else to meet parents? Those kind of the things that I'm not sure about is the only reason I'm not 100% saying, yeah, we can do that. From our side, we should be able to do that. It's just those details, which I'm pretty sure we'll be able to work out. Yeah. Yes.
The deposit, can that come out of their account, the student's account, or do I have to get?
Any of these costs for the trip can come from the accounts. The only thing that I would say for that is I think you probably need to let Ms. Page go.
Okay.
Like, hey, we want to take, if you've got $200 in there, hey, we're going to take 150 of that and go ahead and put that towards the trip. Yes.
Thank you.
Just communicate that to her. And I will say, I know little to nothing about the financial side of Charms. So if you've got questions about what's in your account, or fundraising money, or making payments, or those kind of things, direct those questions to Ms. Page. Because if you send it to me, I'm just going to forward it to her, because she's going to give you a much more accurate answer than what I will be able to give you most days. Okay. Mr. Champion, were you able to get him back at all? Okay. Yes.
Now, you have a plan in mind for next time?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're teenagers.
Yes. So what we do, I believe what we had on New York, we had a security guard on each floor, and I believe that's already been mentioned for this trip. With this is a new travel agent we've never used before, so some of those things we're still kind of working out. But what we do, just so you know, myself, Mr. Champion, Mr. Mosier, the SRHS band staff members, and maybe a couple of select chaperones go around each evening. We physically see all 4 faces in a room. Nobody can be asleep, nobody can be in the shower. We have to see 4 faces, and then we tape them into the room. So we put a piece of tape on the door, and usually we'll like sign it or put our initials on it. Okay? So if that door opens and that tape is not in the same place that we put it on, there's going to be problems. There's going to be problems. Like, we're calling your parents, they're coming to pick you up, or you were done on the trip type problems. If someone is leaving their room and there wasn't a fire alarm that went off during the night, or somebody's like having a serious medical emergency. So that's kind of how we handle that. We'll talk more in detail with that. But in terms of rules, policies, procedures, we will have another very detailed meeting to lay out all those expectations for student behavior and set consequences if they fail to meet that. Yeah, there's a very long district policy that covers medications, and I don't even want to try to speak to everything on it right now because I would probably miss something. But basically, any medications would have to be turned in ahead of time, documented. There's paperwork that we would have to fill out on the trip, when it was administered, how much, all those kind of things. So it would be collected ahead of time, and there's a big.
How do you sign up for Charms? Because he's an incoming.
Yes, so how to sign up for Charms. We'll be sending out information to our incoming students about signing up for Charms. We're actually in the process of getting all that information that you put on your contact info sheet into Charms today. So we'll be able to send you out emails, and on those emails will be step-by-step on how to get into Charms. So that's probably coming this week. Yes, Yeah, we'll have a packing list for this is what you need to bring, this is how much you can bring, this is how many suitcases you can bring, all those kind of things. Very, very detailed. If you have a friend or a parent that went to New York with us, ask them. Lots of detail. Lots of detail. Other questions?
We have to pay some credit cards.
My understanding is all of the, there were requirements in the DC area for proof of vaccination. My understanding that those things have been lifted. If that changes or if I get any more information, I will let everybody know. But my understanding is that those requirements are no longer in place in DC. Fingers crossed, we're in a great place by then and we don't have to worry about that. Anything else?
When it comes to financial, let's say, like you said, there was a time frame where the child in December may have gotten Christmas money, birthday money, or whatever, and they wanted to put that towards their account. Is that something that has to be paid in this, like, staggered payments, or is it something that they could just put into their account and it would go towards their trip or any other expenses?
You can make a payment of any amount at any time. If you wanted to pay it all up front, you could. If you wanted to put it on a credit card, since we're going through charms, you can pay by check, cash, credit card. I've never done that through charms, so I don't know exactly what that looks like, but you can do credit, debit card payments on charms, correct? Has anybody done that? I thought you could. So if you wanted to put it on a credit card, put it all up front and pay it out over the rest of the year on your own timeline, you can. So that's completely up to you. Just communicate those things with Ms. Page. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so we'll go ahead and end our meeting here. If you've got questions you wanted to ask me, I'll figure out up front. If you want the information on the insurance from our travel agent, then you can grab that up here. And if you've got specific questions for our travel agent, since that we weren't able to get him in, let me know and I will relay those. I'll relay the message. Okay. Oh, sorry. One more thing. Ms. Prestine wanted me to remind you the 26th, you correct?
We have a meeting on the 26th, and chaperone training will start in June.
So for current band parents, we're going to have a general meeting on April 26th before the band concert. And if you're interested in chaperoning next year, we will start those trainings in